Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sanson and Steve Sanson. I don't have a co-host today, folks, but I do have a special guest. His name is J. Coach Calhoun, candidate for Clark County School Board District number F. And we're going to talk to, or letter F, and we're going to talk to Coach about how he's going to change the school district that's in a dire need of change. Mr. Calhoun, tell us about yourself.
All right. First of all, I'm originally from California, came here 8 years ago. When I came here, I was coming here to be able to establish my family because where we were in a bad neighborhood. Schooling was failing. Gas was high.
What neighborhood was that?
It was actually Antioch, California.
Huh.
So that's up north. And I wanted to be able to make a better change for my family. So we came to Nevada. And once we came to Nevada, got really involved in the community, started to people that want to go out there and say about my coaching history. So I started as a coach on the end of the season. Then they wanted me to become a school bus driver because then I'm a CCSD employee. Mm-hmm. So once I came on, did a full year.
But you got teacher's credentials, right?
No.
You don't have that?
I actually was support staff the whole time.
Okay.
So I actually did that. Then I went into actually doing the IT for Rancho. Okay. And that's when I was the head coach for soccer. Not my forte, but they saw I was a coach because they actually knew I was a coach, and they put me there. That was the first sport I actually played. When I went to school in Berkeley, as a kid, they actually taught soccer, not football. Right. So it was a great thing to be able to give back. But I love football. I'm a football head. I played football for years, and I even played when I was in the service for semi-pro and the flag leagues and all the different things like that. So I wanted to give back. Okay. So off that topic, I actually got to work and see the school district as an employee. So it's different seeing as a perspective of outside and not being the employee for CCSD. Right. And it was so many inconsiderate policies and things not thought about, like employees not being paid fully, support staff not getting all their hours. When support staff actually go through their whatever contract they have, 8-month, 9-month, 11-month, 12. When holidays happen, teachers get paid during the holidays. A lot of support staff have to go find another job or save their taxes so that they can survive until school starts back up. So it was rough. And every administrator is so focused on trying to get that next step. Oh, I want to be the assistant associate or whatever title they wanted to get above the principal of whatever respective school. Right. Or if it was a vice principal, it was, I'm trying to be the principal of this school, but not actually focusing on
hostile takeover, huh?
Exactly. Everybody was in a rat race to try to be the boss, but nobody was doing their jobs. Right. That's why you see so many issues with the teachers. That's why we have a mass exodus of teachers wanting to leave right now because they feel unsupported by their administrators. They don't have the supplies. They don't have the books that we pay for as taxpayers. We pay for books and pencils and folders. But a lot of parents I've spoke to on the campaign trail, and I'm a parent myself, have the same question. If the money for our actual kids is going to you, why as parents, we have to pay for the supplies? Why do we have to help pay?
Is there a budget for that?
It should be a budget for it. But the main thing is, where's it going? And that's the transparency most parents want to know. Right. You know, why do I have to pay for a folder that's 99 cents? And you probably get it for a penny because the schools have contracts and vendors and all these discounted ways of getting these supplies. Right. Why are books outdated? You know, it was a time where I heard a teacher saying,
why aren't the marijuana taxes funding education that it's supposed to be?
Well, first of all, when you break down the marijuana tax, a lot of people talk about that. It's a rainy day fund. So it's a rainy day fund based off of priority.
But it doesn't rain in Nevada.
Exactly. That's why we have water drought. And in that rainy day fund is by priority. So if one thing that we all see, and that's the state flower, is cones everywhere, right? So transportation.
The state flower is the cone.
Exactly. Everywhere you go, you see a cone. Oh, everywhere you go, you see a cone due to the fact that, and I'm missing. Apologize.
Bring it up a little bit.
Yeah, we'll just bring it here.
There you go.
There we go. All right. So everywhere you go, you see flowers of the state flower called cones.
Cone.
When you think about Project Neon, how do you think that was funded? That was the marijuana tax. They were able to prioritize through that bill where all the fund comes from the marijuana tax to be able to prioritize that. Then when they're done with their projects, it goes in order of priority. So let's say the school is third. Then they'll start getting some type of funding for it.
Right.
That's why when I ran for state assembly last cycle, I said, and I hope whoever's running for state assembly.
What district was that?
District 35.
Okay.
Whoever is the state assembly member, I hope they actually could put this bill in where you put a allotted amount that goes straight for education, not just a general fund, but actual, even if it's just 10%. 10% of the marijuana tax to go to the schools.
But my understanding is, the argument was for this, medical marijuana was already passed.
Right.
For recreational marijuana, it went on the ballot, and they said if it passed, they would use that money to fund education.
Right.
They didn't say anything about a percentage. They didn't say it had the range.
It was just so general.
It was general.
It was like,
fund education.
Well, it has the possibilities of
Has it been funding education?
from what I've seen so far.
Because teachers are still asking for pay raises, so I guess they didn't get it.
Exactly. Why have that not been put in place?
So if and when you become the next school board trustee, are you going to ask for an audit or an investigation into where these marijuana funds?
I want a full. First of all, let's get this go. Let's go from the bottom to the top. Every school should be auditing what. It's just like the military. There should be a point.
What branch were you in, by the way?
U.S. Army.
Thank you for your service.
No problem. And it's Memorial Day. It's not a celebratory day, so don't go to a vet.
And don't say Happy
Don't say Happy
Memorial.
Memorial Day.
That is so stupid.
Because a lot of people had friends that passed away, and this day kind of messes with them. So
just say have a healthy and prosperous Memorial Day. Don't say Happy Memorial Day. Ain't nothing happy about
Veterans Day. So one thing I would say from the bottom up, the schools need to audit what they have, from what edition book they're supposed to have, what supplies, what they get Title I, Title III, CTE money, all these different type of monies. But they should be auditing the schools to make sure that they're at par across the nation of what they need. Okay. And then going up all the way to the school board, we should be transparent to see where the funds are going. Every time you look in the news, there's a discrepancy on where funding is. Okay. And I believe that it should be totally transparent reports. It's just like this. They tell the church to show where the money goes. The schools should show where the money goes, show the report, show where this went to, show that. It's so many things, and it needs to be detailed because everyone should be able to read it. Right. Because there's a parent or a grandparent or even a teenager should be able to say, okay, the school is paying for this and have a clear understanding. It's so much misunderstandings and communication errors that's happening right now, and no one's talking to each other. There's so much education in this whole school district. But no one's using common sense to say, okay, let's put our differences to side and let's get back to the number one thing, and that's getting education to our kids.
You know, the incumbent in that seat right now came on the show, and she said that the school board president and the superintendent are the ones that make the agenda item. Do you think the superintendent, who's supposed to be an employee of the trustees, is making the agenda item for the rest of the trustees to vote on? Or do you think that the trustees should make that call and not involve the superintendent in their decision?
First of all, I even heard, let's go a little further. I heard that the trustees have to ask permission to the superintendent to go see their schools that they were elected to represent.
Who's the employee and who's the employer?
Exactly.
Isn't the trustees the one who votes on the superintendent's salary and contracts and perks and all that?
Yes.
So why is it that the trustees are reporting to the superintendent?
Because they gave up their power.
That is some dumb crap.
When it comes down to it, they gave up their power in the situation. And you could see by how they're inward fighting. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are inward fighting. They're fighting each other.
So what are you going to do about that?
It needs to be, first of all, established that we're here for a job and have respect. Mm-hmm. You cannot like me. There's probably people out there that's watching that don't like me right now.
People don't like me either. So.
But at the end of the day, I'm going to respect you. I'm going to talk professional.
I might not respect those people that don't like me, though.
I'm going to respect you in general. You know, my grandmother taught me well. So
I kind of missed that train.
But
I figure they don't like me. Hell with them. I don't like them either.
Well, I'll leave them in God's hands.
Oh, okay.
So one thing I would say is I would respect them and put a policy in how to conduct yourself. And I believe there's already a decorum of how you're supposed to present yourself. Okay. And there's things that in the professional world, everybody wants to say they're a business owner. I'm in business. I've been in corporate, until it comes to difficult situations and talking to someone that don't like you.
And they don't mention all their failed businesses.
That part. And being professional and having professional etiquette is something that you have to have in difficult situations and conversations, especially when it comes down to talking to each other, not agreeing, everybody having their opinion. Just because you have your opinion doesn't mean it's valid. You have a voice, which is valid, but doesn't mean your opinion is always right, because no one is always right. Right. So it comes down to starting someone putting their foot down and say, hey, enough. Right. I feel like everybody right now is kind of on survival mode, like, oh, it's election time and I might lose my seat. Well, you had 4 years. Yeah. To obviously you let things go by, because what happens if anybody's ever had an employee, when you let an employee do something for so long, it becomes habit.
It's normalized.
Exactly.
It's like corruption.
So that's why Jara thinks he can do whatever he wants, because he's never been checked.
And they fired him and they rehired him.
It's like a kid that got on punishment and got the iPad back. It was like, I don't even take you serious anymore. And someone on the campaign trail even said this: there's so many people that would want Jara gone. If 1 million people donated $1, that would pay for all that money that he was asking back for breaking contract. And we could have started all over again.
Who wrote that contract? They need to fire that person.
First of all, who actually looked it over before firing him? Because you would think that before firing, Johnny Depp had almost a 3-month trial from his divorce with his wife and the defame case that was stopping him from making all these millions from doing Pirate of the Caribbean. Let me reel you back in. It took them months to go over the divorce decree, to go over all these things. They didn't just say, oh, we're going to just award you. It's the same thing with his contract. Mm-hmm. But the same thing that puts to that contract, just like he puts every other principal and teacher under, is that contract upholds to evaluation. When's the last time he'd been evaluated? Mm-hmm. When's the last time he had a performance eval of what he's done? Mm-hmm. You have been here since 2018. What different did you do except budget cuts and taking away deans and causing all the vice principals and the counselors that are supposed to care about our children's mental awareness and all the mental health issues that they're having? IEP teachers are doing campus monitor jobs. Everyone, vice principals are doing campus monitor jobs.
They're multitasking.
They're multitasking because ever since it took the deans, everybody was stretched. How are we so stretched, but you make so much? How are we so stretched, but we're the 5th largest district in the nation? How are we making decisions to downsize our CCSD, Clark County School District Police, to 137 for 374 schools?
And the superintendent makes more than the governor. How's that?
He makes more than the president.
How's that?
That's a good question. And a lot of people from Florida actually warned us about him before coming over. It was a very big jump. I guess he was lucky to go from being a principal in Florida to just coming to be a big baller out here as a superintendent. And as a parent, we want results. Mm-hmm. There's so many. And
you got kids in the school district?
Yes, I do.
How many?
I have 3 kids, and the news have been writing. I have 3 kids in the district, and I have another child on the way.
But not in the district.
No, not in the district because she's not born yet.
Okay.
But
I thought it was on the way to the district.
Oh no, on the way to this world. So I have a going on high schooler at DO, and I have 2 kids that's in Reese Elementary. So I actually have kids in the district. That's a whole nother story. Mm-hmm. First, I'm a parent. And a lot of times, if you look at my Twitter, I say #concerned parent, because at the end of the day, if I'm elected or not, I'm still going to be a concerned parent. Mm-hmm. And every choice that the school board makes mm-hmm. is going to affect my kids directly.
What do you think about that organization called Power to Parent?
I believe that Power to Parent wants to bring the actual voice back to parents. Mm-hmm. But it's so many people talking. There's so many different things, and especially when it comes to election years, everybody's saying their own opinions of how things are from the gist of what it is, mm-hmm. even though they didn't endorse me. No hate. One thing.
Did the unions endorse you?
No.
Okay.
That's funny too. The thing that I could say about it is I've always been about choice. Mm-hmm. I actually had an issue, and I've had so many parents that had issues where their child felt not safe, where their child had a situation where they got jumped on, mm-hmm. Teachers talking to them any type of way. Yeah. And let's address this. I believe the teacher should have a top salary of $100,000 because you have a degree. And if you go based off of the medium of a degree,
it's a bachelor's, isn't it?
It's a bachelor's. Mm-hmm. But a lot of teachers,
you know, some school board regents don't even have an associate's degree.
That's a whole different story too, especially being over a region. It's kind of like this. I wouldn't go to be regent because I don't have a bachelor's degree.
So what kind of degrees do you have?
So I've actually been in IT for over 12 years in my field. And I love that you brought that up because I'm going to tie this in because mm-hmm. we live in a different world now. Mm-hmm. I've been in IT for going on 12 years. I got my A+ certification.
Could you hack?
No.
Okay.
They give you a class
I
about
probably was going to need you.
They give you a class about it, but no, I do not hack. They teach, that's the part of IT security, knowing how hackers go so that you can be able to prevent it.
Gotcha.
But in this world that we live in, mm-hmm. The degree was only if I wanted to ever become a CIO. If I wanted to be a CIO of a company, and that's a chief informational technology officer, mm-hmm. Then yes, I would have got to get a degree. Mm-hmm. But it never affected my pay scale.
So what do you have?
So I have, I guess I'm working on my degree.
Okay.
So in the moment, I'm using my GI Bill to work on my degree.
You have a high school diploma, right?
Of course.
Yeah. Yes. You know there was a trustee that barely had a GED.
Oh, no, I didn't know that. Well, first of all, let's put this out there.
I know some
I joined the U.S. Army, and I didn't have to get a waiver. I did not have to get a waiver to join. I just went straight in because there's some people that had to get a waiver if they get a GED.
How long were you in the Army for?
I was in for 3 years.
Okay.
And I was
honorably discharged?
Of course.
Okay.
Check me.
I got to ask.
Because some people want to check my coaching record. I want them to check my military.
You know, I got to ask, and you know, when was the first time we have ever met?
I would say it was of last cycle when I first did my first election.
Okay. And since this election started with you in there, when was the first time we met since this election started?
The last time I came for the interview.
For the endorsement interview.
Correct.
All right. With that said, since the interview started, mm-hmm. when was the first time you and I communicated at all? Whether phone, text, pigeon, airplane up in the sky?
Not since then.
Since the endorsement interview.
Just endorsement.
So I haven't communicated with you or met you since the endorsement interview.
Correct.
for the endorsement interview, and you know, I don't vote on the endorsement process.
Right.
The panel does. But anyways, I had a candidate after the endorsement interview was done with you on there, and we proudly endorsed your candidacy for Trustee District F. The candidate's husband, who wasn't even at the endorsement interview, went up to me and asked me that if the fix was in. So I asked this person, what the hell are you talking about? Because before I get angry, I want to know what I'm getting angry about.
Correct.
And they said because my group endorsed you, so it was fixed. What do you got to say about people that talk crap like that? Because they didn't get it, so it had to have been fixed. You understand me?
All right.
Because they didn't get it, it has to be fixed. But if they did get it, it wouldn't be fixed.
Go watch the last interview and you be the judge, okay?
And let me tell you something. The next person that says that any of her endorsements are fixed without any evidence, I'm going to slap the shit out of you like Will Smith did to Chris Rock.
I didn't say that. But anyway, one thing I would want to say, though, let's talk about security.
I had to say that because it was on my chest for a long time. Because
you don't like people...
veterans in politics put so much time, money, and heart into these things, and for some mediocre a-hole to come and just arbitrarily throw that word around,
right,
is just disgusting to me.
Especially because people get hurt feelings. Like, I get hurt feelings. I'm not going to get everything.
Keep that shit to yourself.
Exactly. My grandmother would always say, if you don't have nothing nice to say,
don't say nothing at
all. And that's the best way to go about it. Because I didn't get endorsed by everybody either. And
it must be fixed then.
No, they have a process. They have how they go. They vote on it. And obviously I didn't make it. I think that's the world we live in, where everybody feels entitled. And you're not entitled to anything but your opinion.
Because our endorsement is not based on friendship. Our endorsement is based on the right person for the job at the right time.
And again, watch the last interview and y'all be the judge of it, because
they're going to watch it with a biased mind, biased eyes.
They still should watch it. Watch it again. So I want to talk about security.
Okay.
With the events that just happened. And as a parent, and every parent across this nation is shaken to the core to just put their self in those shoes, to just think about getting a phone call like that. And since I've been on the campaign trail, you could go back, look at Twitters, all that stuff. I've been saying my number one priority is security. Number one priority is security.
Well, while you're on that topic, there was a candidate for state senate that was talking about the security of the schools and wanted to advocate to put metal detectors in all the schools and control, because all these schools have all these doors to get out,
right? And
control all these doors by some type of electric magnet or some passcode, so that you won't be able to exit or enter so freely.
Well, it's
kind of controlled access. Traffic control.
Yeah, controlled access. And one thing that I could definitely say is metal detectors, we've kind of seen throughout history, is a failed system due to the fact that somebody could just drop it off by a bush. Somebody could go somewhere. And
the cost alone is probably crazy with the detectors and the people to
man it, to all those different things. And when you look at security, and so many people are like, well, and let's address this. Just because we talk about security does not mean that we're trying to make schools into prisons. That's not what we're saying. Because when you go to a football game, you go through all that security, but you're having fun.
Right.
And you're not forced. It's volunteering.
Yeah. That's different, though.
Right, it's different. When you go to a casino, there's all kind of security and cameras. And if you sit somewhere too long, someone comes tap you and be like, what are you doing here? That's still a form of security.
Or the clubs.
Or when you go to the club, you get pat down, you have security.
They don't have a problem with all that.
But when it comes down to
school,
our future, because our children are our future, Why do we not think to that same caliber?
It's like voter ID. you show your
ID for everything, but you don't want to show your ID for voting.
For voting.
There was literal pictures last election cycle, and I'm not going to get fully into it because I'm still salty.
We live in a hypocritical society.
If it's good for them,
what it is.
But it's and I think my thought process is across the board.
Mm-hmm.
It is general. It's the most general thought process. The facts is the facts.
Right.
If it's not secured for one group, then it's not secured at all. And I think that we need to get to a point of securing our schools. We just had a whole fact. And I've been saying it was sad that the last time the teacher was assaulted at El Dorado, that they said cameras didn't work. Different things that weren't working.
Is that the teacher that got raped?
Yes. Now we have a report that a teacher was having misconduct with a student, and there was nowhere in the school where there was cameras to check this, to be able to see some inappropriate action. When you go send your baby to daycare, let's put it like that, you have nanny cams. Most daycares have controlled access, cameras where you could look at your baby on the phone and be able to see the app and see with them playing and whatever.
Boarding your pets.
You have an app to watch your pet, controlled access.
Yes.
But when it comes down to our schools, and one thing I've seen, perfect example was when I saw at Legacy Charter School. Legacy Charter School has controlled access. They have cameras. They have pickup lines where the kids get in, there's somebody there. Think about the difference. What I just said right there. Legacy Charter School has drive lines where they drop off the kids.
Come on, Northwest.
Southwest as well.
Because my daughter used to go to Legacy Northwest.
And my daughter went to Southwest, and now she's going to DO. So the drive lines have people standing there. You're not just dropping off your kid and your kid's just walking to school and anybody could just walk up. They have everybody. They have walkie-talkies. They actually monitor the kids going in the building and out the building. Isn't that what campus monitor is supposed to do? But how can a campus monitor do that when they are only 2 to a high school, 3 to a high school? Then you have one PD there. And he's supposed to check the front of the school and the back of the school at the same time. It's not enough coverage. If I'm elected, I'm going to put 2 PD there. I'm going to have more campus monitors there. Because think about it, a lot of campus monitors.
You're one of what? How many votes? 7? 6?
9.
9. Okay. So you got to convince the majority to
There's 9 of us candidates running right now.
No, I'm talking about the trustee. How many? A, B, C, D, E, F, 6 or 7?
6.
Okay. So you're one vote. So how are you going to convince the rest of the trustees to vote along with you? And where would you get the funding to do what you're asking?
First of all, let's first audit and see where the money's going first. And someone asked me, how are you qualified to look over budgets? I heard somebody on Facebook Live, I said, like, how are you qualified? Let me tell you how I'm qualified. I actually worked at Salesforce as a logistic IT manager. And I had a blanket PO. That means I had no dollar amount. I could order whatever for all of the buildings of AMER, that's Northern and Southern America, for all of the corporate buildings. And then that went from blanket PO to now you have $2 million, make it work. That's my qualification because I had to actually think outside the box, ask for assistance, be a team player to make sure that the money worked for what they had. I feel like right now we have champagne taste and beer money because we're putting money places that doesn't need to go and not putting it where it's supposed to go, and that's education.
So you still work for the school district?
No.
Okay.
I actually work private. I've been doing IT in the private sector due to the fact of, like I was talking about, support staff struggles. Working a whole summer without getting paid. I'm not the only one that's ever done that, but I couldn't do that. And that's why I said, even in the Las Vegas Review Journal.
You got kids?
I have 3.
Okay, and you're married?
I am.
And your wife works?
No.
So you got to put food on the table.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how many teachers, how many support staff are thinking that same way? That how does the recruiter make 80,000, but a teacher make 40,000? How is the support staff making the same amount as working at Smith's?
So would you
and let me tell you how, because you asked me something, I want to get back to, you said how the money would come. Let me tell you how the money could come. We can do an alumni association. Simple alumni association where we could get to a point. We've had people actually at DO actually have a Super Bowl champ.
What's DO?
Desert Oasis.
Okay.
He was a class, I believe, of 2010. He went to play for the Broncos. He could put money to his school for the field to be named after him. A lot of schools do that. We don't have the association where people could be like, well, you know, I went to the school, I want to put money in my school. I want the auditorium because that's where I spent most of my time because I was a singer, I was an actor, I was a dancer. So, you know, I'm going to put money in the auditorium.
Name the auditorium or the department or the...
And that money, how many schools we have? That money could go back into the schools to pay for the salary, to pay for the books, on top of the Title I,
So how much
Title
would it
II.
cost to get a school named after veterans in politics?
You're gonna have to ask that school and it has to get passed first. But I think it would be an idea to do. We got to start thinking outside the box. We live in Las Vegas. It's already bad enough we're a one-trick pony, and that 3% of the world comes here to vacation, gamble, and spend time, and we still don't have a financial district. That's free game to any political person that's watching me. So just think about it. For the same thing with the schools. We're here, 5th largest district, but we're acting like we're in a backwater place with no resources, middle of nowhere. We need to start changing the way we think.
There's a lot of candidates in this election cycle talking about breaking up the school district. How do you feel about that?
I think we should, because if we failed this many times,
Definition of insanity is what?
doing the same thing, expecting a different outcome. I know a lot of people are scared of new things. That's the same reason why we haven't had more industries than outside the entertainment industry in Las Vegas, is because a lot of people haven't thought outside. But Sparks thought different. They brought a giggle plant from Tesla. They brought Google plants out in Sparks in northern Nevada. But here in Clark County, we have not thought outside the box. Like, let's bring a financial district. We say we're the quote unquote entertainment of the world.
Or Braille school. How about that?
Or a military school, because we're a military town with Nellis, and they probably have old barracks that they could write off to us to make it into a school. And that would have took, first of all, a lot of the continuation schools don't have structure. It's kind of like babysitting. Let's just call it what it is. If we had a military school, a lot of kids need structure. I said this last time I was on this interview, and I still stand by that. If we had a military school that had structure, had a drill sergeant, had to actually wake up early, work out, they wouldn't have time to do anything else that's foolish, because you in and out military. That's why the military said back in the day, go to boot camp, go to jail. Which one you want to do?
During the Vietnam era.
Exactly. So
I think they also need a school for the blind, because I don't think there's any Braille in this state. I'm not positive.
Let's not talk about IEPs. There's so many deficiencies when it comes down to kids with IEPs, and certain specialists that are not there, certain needs that's not there, certain resources that are outdated, especially when it comes down to Braille or let's say someone that's hearing impaired.
Right.
Are those up to code? Has somebody even checked the last time those were checked? No. So it comes down to auditing all those.
And a forensic audit, right? Not a regular audit.
Yes, and that would have to come. Obviously, that's not of my seat, because a lot of people will probably lie to you and say, we could do a forensic audit. No, that would have to actually come
from an out-of-state firm.
From an out-of-state firm.
Since they got the superintendent out of state, might as well.
Exactly. And the legislature would have to put behind it and actually put it in pass, because we have to remember that our funding comes from the legislature. And then the governor would have to sign off on it. It's very funny.
But once you get the funding, you could go ahead and ask for the forensic audit as school board trustee.
You could as a vendor, because we've applied for so many other vendors. Right. But this shouldn't just be a one-time thing.
Right.
This should be actually put into the Nevada legislation, where we're saying this is the audit that every school needs to do. because I feel like we're so behind. Why are we so behind? I know we're not the only school that's, going to ask for an audit. There's probably firms, there's probably vendors, there's probably all kinds of things. Just like Infinite Campus. Let's talk about Infinite Campus. Communication with the actual parents.
Right.
Because first off, I've heard so many teachers complain about, oh, you're teaching us all these new things. We have to stay up to date and trainings in class. Well, if you go to any other job, you have to do every mandatory training out there. Doesn't matter if you want to or not. That's part of the job. It's a job, right? And Infinite Campus is such an amazing tool if you use it right. If you don't use it, of course you're going to have confusion because parents are not getting the updates. The parents are, you send it by mail. How many people check your mail? How many people have got a mailer recently? You probably threw it away, right? Probably with that information was all this other information. And then CCSD actually calls landlines. Who has a landline? And if they're calling a cell phone, guess what? Apple phones, I can tell you for a fact, will put it in spam because it's not in your contacts. So it's to a point where we need to have the communication. That's why I believe in a parent bill of rights so that they can understand, have the right to choose for classes. It's funny to me.
So are you a firm believer of the ESAs, the Education Student Assistant Fund, when the money follows the child, whether the child...
School choice?
Yeah.
Yes.
You believe in that?
I do.
Okay. Why?
I do, due to the fact that, first of all, a lot of people are doing it already by variant. If it's the same thing as variance changes. Okay. If you want to put it like that. It's the same thing. You didn't want your child to go to Sierra Vista, so you send them to Desert Oasis. You would have to get a variance, right? The funding follows your child. It doesn't stay at Sierra Vista. It will follow them to DO.
So what's the difference, basically?
What's the difference of it?
Right.
It's if you didn't want the child, and so many people were getting in trouble for saying, I want my child to go to a good school. Why?
Why would you want your child to go to good school?
Why is that a bad thing that this parent wants to send their kid to a good school? Just because you're in a place where you're right by a school don't mean that they have what your child is that challenges your child, right? So I have a child that does art. I have a child that loves science. I have a child that does math. That doesn't mean that school in my neighborhood actually has the things that my child has interest in. That means my child's not going to have interest in school because they're getting taught something that they don't favor in.
You were a CCSD employee.
Yes, I was.
Before. So you're a CCSD employee.
Correct.
Okay. You are a parent that have children in the school district.
Correct.
And you're a military veteran.
Correct.
Why not you?
Why?
To be the next school board trustee.
Why not me?
Why not you?
Well, the main thing I could say, why not me? First of all, I can't even answer that because the whole reason why I came out
it's a trick question.
I know, because I wanted to give you something, but at the end of the day, take all them titles away. I'm a parent, and I want to be a voice for parents. Okay. And first of all, I'm gonna get selfish because every parent should. I want to be a voice for my kid, because at the end of the day, your kid is determined by your actions as the adult. And if you don't stand up for your kid, nobody will.
Right.
And education is the key to their success and their future. If you don't defend and fight for your kid, then they're going to get passed along. And can I tell y'all something out there that's watching? The strip love valet. If you think that your child's only good enough to do valet, your kid is only good enough to go down to the strip and work at the mall, work at fast food or a restaurant. And there's nothing wrong with that. But be selfish right now. Think about your kid. If you think that that's all they're worth, then keep doing what we're doing.
Right.
Keep work. Because at the end of the day, everybody's saying all this great stuff, including the incumbent who's in the seat that could make the change but hasn't did it. If you want more for your child, you got to make a change.
Right.
What'd you say the definition of insanity was?
Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result.
How are we going to do this? How are we going to get a new result? Las Vegas, Clark County. How are we going to get a new result and have somebody that actually want to make those different changes? And that's not scared of nobody. Because first of all, going back to the first thing you asked me, First of all, I feel like due to the fact that Jar is intimidating, or Jar is getting to the point where he's like, well, I'll help you with your next election, but let's not talk about that part. Because let's be real. How much does a school board trustee make? $8,000 to $9,000 a year. How much does Jar make a year? $450,000.
Plus perks.
Plus perks, that part, and benefits. Yeah. And after 5 years, he can retire and get.
And he's got his own Pendleton bike, or whatever it's called. Peloton bike. So
getting to that point, I want to definitely just say it simply as this. We got to get to a point where we change the dynamic. Because we don't know what's going on in the background. Everybody got their own agenda. I can tell you right now. And I said, get selfish again with me. Y'all watching me. Get selfish. My selfish agenda is my kids. Because I believe that I want to set a standard so that my kids can get the best. And then I've seen the example. I've coached high school football, and I've had football players come back to me and say, man, coach, they put me in these dumbed down classes just because of where I graduated from. That hurt me because they went to D1 schools, D2 schools, scholarships, but they didn't treasure the education that they acquired from Clark County. It's cool to graduate everyone, but it doesn't mean anything if outside states don't value it.
True. Or colleges, right?
All colleges. If you look at all colleges, they all have a grading system, and they look at where your testing was from the school you went to. So it is important. That's why a lot of parents dictate where they send their kids to. Why do you think so many people want to send their kids to Gorman? Due to the fact that when they look at the testing of Gorman, the college looks back and be like, okay, they're at par. Let's give them a test, and they usually be at level. When you see that they come from, let's say, a regular Clark County high school, they're going to test them. And if they don't meet the criteria and I can tell you this, a lot of times they don't meet the criteria due to the new policy that they put in place where they can't review previous work. So if a person doesn't get the core fundamentals of the subject, let's say reading comprehension or math, let's get to multiplication. If a child doesn't know their times tables, let's put it simple, and they move to fractions, they're going to be lost because you have to have the core group fundamentals before you can even move up to the next one. And if you're not doing a review, especially because we had COVID, and everyone's not a teacher that was a parent that had their kids at home. So there's a big learning gap with a lot of our kids. And to say that we're not going to go back and review is selfish. That means you're just, they're another kids. We're just going to push them through, and then we'll implement something later. You're not going to just push my kid through. Right. Like I said, get selfish, parents out there. You really need to get to a point where you're selfish, because it's funny. And I'm going to just say it out here and be transparent. Everybody say, I love my kid. How many times have you been to the school? How many times have you been to that school board meeting? And how many times you pushed the issue?
And how many times you use teachers as babysitters?
Facts. and it's time, because you got to hold parents accountable just like I would hold teachers accountable. Teachers want to make $100,000, you got to do the job. Parents, you want to be able to have communication, you got to actually communicate. Or all this is for nothing. We could sit here and we could talk about every type of policy, but if the parents and the teachers and the school board are not all on the same page, it's lost.
All right, Mr. Calhoun, did you get everything you wanted to say? Because today's early voting starts.
Last thing I say, if you have anything else that you would want to know about me, check out.
I'm gonna let you do that.
Okay.
I want to know in general.
In general, the main thing I could say is, as a concerned parent, #concerned parent, you could take all them titles away from me. I'm running because I believe that parents should have a voice on the board.
Okay. Thank you for coming on the show. Mark's gonna zoom in on you, and then your closing. Why people should go to the voting booth and vote for you, and your point of contact.
Awesome. I'm Coach Calhoun. I'm a parent. Simple as that. I'm a parent, and I believe that parents should have a voice. I believe that our kids are our future and that they need a decent quality education. And if you want to know more about me, you could go check me out at votecoach.com. coachcalhoun.com or email me at j@votecoachcalhoun.com and follow me on Twitter at Coach J Calhoun. You can follow me on all those things. Make sure you go out there and vote. If you haven't registered to vote, go out there and register to vote and check out Coach Calhoun.
Give your boundaries for your district.
District F from Gene. I think it's Gene. Salone area, all the way over down to Sahara and Fort Apache up. So Sandy Valley, we have, so the major high schools, Spring Valley, we have Durango, we have Sierra Vista, we have Clark, we have Desert Oasis, and a few adult schools in those areas. So make sure you check out. And if you don't know where District F is, you go to CCSD, check out District F, and it will show you all the schools that are in that district.
Well, Mr. Calhoun, I want to thank you for coming out and voicing your opinion and your background to the voters so they could be more educated when they go to the voting booth. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Folks, that's J. Coach Calhoun. He's a candidate for Clark County School District F. He's been endorsed by Veterans in Politics International. And if you don't know anything about Mr. Calhoun, please go to his website, check him out, and or check out the endorsement interviews that was done a couple weeks ago.
Right.
And you could see Mr. Calhoun in action. We need a change at the Clark County School Board. And the change starts by putting new fresh blood that are qualified. Did you hear what I said? That are qualified to be on the school board. And that's what we need to do to make change. This is Steve Sands for Veterans in Politics. Until next time.